last but not least, you're almost done. Thank you for your patience, and I want to join my colleagues on both sides of the aisle to talk about rural broadband, critical issue in my district in New Hampshire. I've made this comment before, but I think the presidential primary candidates are going to have the experience. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? And I think it may become a higher priority on their agenda, I hope. But thank you for your work, Commissioner. We appreciate it. And I do want to work with the committee on the mapping issue. I think Kathy McMorris-Rogers mentioned a bill, and I'd like to work in a bipartisan way. That's a big point for us right now because the maps show that there is better coverage than there actually is. And so we have a citizen initiative going out and trying to collect the data for the FCC. And then the other issue that I made note of is your point that population is not a good proxy for coverage, that we should maybe revisit and fix that issue, the allocation issue around the funding. But I think you've heard today broad bipartisan support for improved access and for education, for job training. It's critically important for us in terms of the next generation of citizens and workers in New Hampshire, so I appreciate that. I also appreciate the issues around clean drinking water in the LIFT Act. I want to commend the chair for including that. In New Hampshire, we recently passed a state law requiring that schools test their water and take remediation efforts if contamination is present. A recent GAO report indicated 57% of American schools do not test their drinking water for lead, which I think to most parents would be pretty shocking. And so I think it's important to address that in the LIFT Act, funding for drinking water programs, including schools and child care programs. So I want to follow up, Ms. Ektish, from your testimony highlighting more than half of the schools across the country were built during the 1970s or before. Can you discuss the challenges that some of these schools face around lead contamination and drinking water, and how this bill might make a difference?
Sure, thank you for that question, Congresswoman. And again, I think schools are a critical issue that should be part of the infrastructure conversation. As we heard from Mr. Auerbach, children are particularly susceptible to lead. So looking at lead in schools as well as lead in child care facilities is extremely important moving forward and should be part of the infrastructure discussion. I think more broadly, there could be opportunities to look at where the bill does look at the energy efficiency at schools. There are opportunities to look more broadly at the health and safety of these school facilities beyond lead, asbestos, a number of other challenges that these aging facilities are facing.
And I also appreciate the provisions around PFAS. We just had a hearing recently, and that's been a big issue in my district as well. And I just think, as a mother, as a member of Congress, I care about the present and future well-being of our children, and I think it's something that is, critically important. So I appreciate that. And then just turning to the significant investment in moving us toward a clean energy economy. In New Hampshire, we have 5 towns already, Concord, Keene, Plainfield, Hanover, and Cornish in my district that have committed to use 100% renewable energy by 2030. And I think so many communities are stepping up on clean energy. Our housing authority, for example, in Keene, New Hampshire, recently installed solar arrays on a housing project, and it's going to reduce pollution equivalent to a gas-powered driving vehicles, 192,100,000 every single year. So again, Ms. Ektish, if you can discuss how the LIFT Act's grant program to support solar installations could make a difference, and then my time will be up and you will be done.
Sure, thank you. So I think, again, investing in clean energy is a tremendous need, both in terms of reducing greenhouse gas emissions And if we do it right with strong labor and procurement standards, we can also create good jobs not only in the installation of these solar panels, wind infrastructure projects, but also in the manufacturing of the component parts. And I think that's an important thing to consider as well.
So a bipartisan win-win-win, well delivered. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.